Hi everyone, my name is Lisa Coleman. I am the in-store nutritionist for Giant Food. Did you know that Giant had nutritionists? Yes. So, yeah. Oh, good. I've been there about 18 months. I'm in the Timonium store, which is right across from the York Fairgrounds, right on York Road. In the store, I do consultations. We see people for diabetes, weight management, food allergies, just healthy eating in general, picky eaters, with little kids. We're laughing over here. We charge $25 for that appointment, and then you get a $25 gift card to Giant. So essentially it's a free service. I'm really proud that Giant's doing that. We also do a lot of community education, and everything that we do is free in the community. So I'm going to let you know what you have in front of you. You have our Healthy Ideas magazine. This is filled with healthy recipes that are written by our nutritionists and our health and wellness team. And if you make these recipes at home, they will work because we've made them, we photographed them, and they actually work in the kitchen. So for example, one of my favorite ones is on page 19. It's the slow cooker applesauce. So if you have some extra fall apples at home, throw them in the crock pot and cook them. This is no added sugar, and it actually makes a chunky applesauce that you can mash up with a masher. It makes your house smell like apple pie. The vanilla, the cinnamon. We actually sampled this recipe to 900 women who attended an Oprah conference in DC a couple of weeks ago, and it was just received very well by them. And it was a long day of serving applesauce. Also, if you look at the next page, these cauliflower steaks are amazing. So this is a grilled cauliflower, but it can also be done in the oven at a high temperature, like 425, and it turns out wonderful. The cauliflower becomes caramelized and sweet, and it has the seasonings on it. It's delicious, so make sure you do that. I just came back from Atlanta a couple of days ago, and I saw a lot of roasted vegetables when we were eating out in restaurants. And not just small roasted vegetables, but like big chunks of broccoli. So they'll take a whole stalk of broccoli, drizzle olive oil on it and seasoning, and stick it in the oven at a high temperature, and you're served the whole stalk on your plate. It's delicious. Also, I've seen people stick a whole head of cauliflower into the oven and just roast it that way without even cutting it up. And I've seen people do entire bunches of kale. So you don't even tear it up or anything to do the kale chips. You just stick the whole bunch with olive oil and seasonings in the oven and serve it that way. So that seems to be one of the new trends that's out there. Has anybody ever tried that? You got to do it. It's so good. And we've been making kale chips at nighttime to kind of snack on. If you haven't tried that, you take the kale, you tear it up, drizzle with olive oil or spray with Pam, and then put your favorite seasoning on there. Chili powder, Parmesan cheese, curry, any kind of flavor that you like, and bake it in the oven. And it comes out like potato chips. It's crispy, seasoned, delicious. If you haven't tried that, make sure you do that. I know at home we're trying to wean off the chips, and we're using that instead, and it really works, and it tastes very, very good. So if you're looking for a recipe, just do a Google search for kale chips. Yeah.
So you said before that they do like the whole kale, they just stick the whole thing in over. Do they wash it?
Oh yeah, I would definitely wash out the produce. Yeah, you want to wash the produce that you bring home. Just give it a wash, dry it off, and then use the olive oil and seasoning. Yeah. Okay, so the purpose of today is to just kind of plant a little seed in your head. We have football season, tailgating, but we also have a couple of other parties coming up, right? Because the holidays are right around the corner. So anything that we talk about today can be easily applied to holiday parties in the holiday setting. So what we're going to do is just kind of give you a couple of tips and tricks. Think about, too, what kind of foods we might want to bring if we're invited to a party like that. And I'm also going to open it up for discussion. And if anybody else has any ideas to share, I'm more than happy to talk about that. Also, I see that 2 people brought recipes, so we'll get to those as well. All right, so a couple of tips. Has everybody seen this before?
Or something similar.
Yeah, something along those lines. This is called MyPlate. This is the new food pyramid. So the food pyramid is gone. They got rid of it and they put it on a plate. So it's a little bit more visual. Do we eat like this every single meal? No. Okay. That would be really hard to do. However, there are some takeaway messages from this plate that I think are really helpful for every meal and for every snack. The first one is protein at every meal. Okay. So when you're at a party, you want to make sure that you're reaching for some protein and putting protein on your plate. Also, I love this message. Half plate fruits and vegetables, half plate produce, half plate healthy. So if you're filling half your plate with fruits and vegetables or all vegetables, you have to worry less about what's on the other half of your plate. Would you agree? If you do half plate healthy, you can do that at a restaurant. You know, when you're traveling, you can do it here for lunch. You can do it at a party. So keep that message in mind if you do nothing else to do half plate healthy. So reach for those fruits and vegetables to fill half your plate. Okay, so when you're at a party, you're going to be looking for protein and vegetables, all right? Also, what I want you to do is I call it being a food snob, okay? What I want you to do is go in and I want you to scan all the options. What do we have available here? So a lot of times what people will do is grab a plate and take a little bit of everything, right? And research tells us that when you do that, the more variety that's there, the more you're going to end up eating. Okay, so if you're taking a little bit of everything, you're going to end up eating more. So instead of doing that, what I'd like you to do is scan the options and figure out what looks really good to you. What's worth it to eat? Okay, what's not worth it? What could you eat every other day of the week, right? What's special that you really want to include on your plate? So I call it being a little bit snobby, a little bit like discerning when you're looking at all the options there. Okay. Also, if you're eating something and maybe it doesn't necessarily taste very good, our natural tendency is to keep eating it, right? Because it's there, right? Have you ever done that before? Like, yeah. All right, I'll give you some examples. Like the other day, my mom came over and we had desserts left over from a party and the saran wrap wasn't quite covering the cake and it got stale, right? She ate it anyway, right? We do that. We eat food that doesn't necessarily taste very good. Also, when you're eating fries and you're full, right? You're full, but there's a couple left in the bottom of the bag and they're cold and they're soggy. We still eat them. Why do we do that? Okay, so let's just question that a little bit. And don't eat food if it doesn't taste good. If it tastes good, savor it. Really enjoy it. If it doesn't taste good, don't eat it. Okay, so maybe something's not meeting your expectation or it's not as good as you thought. Push it aside and don't eat it. Okay, that would be another tip for you. But if you are going to eat something, did you know that research tells us we're going to get the most enjoyment out of the first 3 bites? The first 3 bites. So what happens is the first bite you get the most pleasure out of. The second and third are almost equal to that. But after that, we keep eating. And what happens? Our enjoyment and pleasure and satisfaction that we're getting out of that is going down. But we keep eating. It is true. So when you eat something, we call them treats, okay, whether that's sweet or savory, you really want to pay attention to it and really enjoy it and realize you're going to get a lot of pleasure out of the first 3 bites. And it's not true that the more you eat, the more pleasure you're going to get out of it. Okay, so that's just another something. Have a couple of bites and then put it aside. All right, another tip for you. I'd like you to start using smaller plates. Okay, I know that was a tip that Weight Watchers had come out with a couple of years ago and kind of went viral and everybody was talking about it. But there is some research behind that recommendation, and that's because when you're eating off of a smaller plate, it looks like more food. Okay, so if you are eating, let's say, a cup of mashed potatoes, and that's my favorite food. If I put a cup of mashed potatoes on a small plate, it's going to look like a lot. If I put it, let's say, on this plate that's kind of big, it's going to look like nothing, right? And I'm going to think that I'm not full because of how it looks. Okay, so smaller plates make you think that you've had more food, right? Also the same for serving bowls, serving ladles. So if I had given you, it's so interesting, if I used a really small ladle back there, you probably would have taken less food than if I used a very large one, right? Tall, skinny glasses, we tend to take less than if we use short, fat glasses. Did you know that? And the science behind that is that we tend to think that a vertical line is longer than a horizontal line. Have you ever seen the brain teasers like that? Okay, same goes for glasses. If you have a tall, skinny glass, people tend to pour about 5 ounces into it. If you have a short, fat glass, people tend to pour about 9 ounces, but think that they poured the same amount. Okay, so if you use the tall, skinny glasses, you're going to end up taking less. Really great science behind that. Same with ice cream and bowls and scoops. Always try to have the smaller portions available at your fingertips, and you won't feel deprived by taking the smaller portions. You're actually going to be full and satisfied by that. All right, one more tip, and then I'm going to open it up to the floor. Which one should we do? Well, let's talk a little bit about alcohol at some of the events, right? What we know is that there is a guideline for moderation. It's based on health reasons. So if you drink a lot of alcohol, not only does it have a lot of calories in it, but it causes some health problems over a period of time. So the recommendation is for moderation is 1 drink a day for women and 2 drinks a day for men. Okay, so does that mean that you can save up 2 drinks a day for that party on Saturday and have 14 drinks? No, that would not be moderation. It doesn't really work that way, unfortunately. That would actually be called binge drinking. So we need to look out for that. So some tips. A lot of times we're drinking lots of volume because we're thirsty. So make sure that you're hydrated, first of all. So drink water before you go to the party. But also you might want to start with some water, okay? And some people, if you're a wine drinker like I am, you might actually put the water in the wine glass and drink it out of there. It's kind of a psychological thing. You feel like you're holding that wine glass, right? And if you're thirsty, you're going to drink that water pretty quickly. Then have a glass of wine, then have some more water, and then have a glass of wine. Okay, so you want to insert the water in between drinks, and that will cut down on the amount of calories, but also the amount of alcohol that you're consuming. Okay. All right. So what are some of the things that, are challenges when you go to parties like this? Desserts. Okay. So what I think you should do for desserts is kind of be that food stop kind of thing and really figure out which one you want or which 2 you want, and then keep the 3-bite rule in mind. So have a couple of bites of it, really enjoy it, and then move on. Yes. What else? Yes.
Caroline, when you said before about feeling frustrated today, I think it's hard to more so when you are immediately busy. So I really don't like this, but the person is staring at me. So you guys
Well, you think they're looking at you, but they're probably not. So a lot of us internalize all these rules, right, and pressure. Like, I made this just for you, or please have this, I baked this for you. One of the things I share with the last group is a great response is, I'm really not that hungry right now. So it's not I'm on a diet or I'm watching my calories or I'm trying to be good. I'm really not that hungry right now, because really people can't argue with that. Oh, yes, you are hungry. No, I'm not hungry. So that's a really good response. What else did I want to say about that?
I don't know where the trash is.
You don't know where the trash is? So you just eat it. There's some research done. It's funny with Americans. You ask Americans, how do you know when you're done eating dinner? How do you know when you're done eating a meal? What are some of the responses you might get to
When the
that?
plate is empty.
When the plate is empty, when there's nothing left. What else? When you feel awful, right? You're so sick.
Yeah, you feel really full.
You know what else they say is when the people I'm eating with are done eating.
Yes.
Okay, and research also tells us the more people you eat with, the more you're going to eat. You eat a bigger quantity of food because you're waiting for everybody to be finished, right? So those are all external reasons. You're letting other things decide when you're done eating. If you ask Europeans that same question, it's always an internal response. I'm done when the food no longer tastes good, okay? Or I'm done when I'm full, right? So we need to kind of move to that mindset, and you're full from here, okay, from your core. It's not from your eyes, it's not from your heart, it's not from, the person next to you determining when you're full. It really comes from here. And kind of tuning into how you're feeling here and walking away from the food and just being done with it. Also, another tip would be not to graze all the entire time. A lot of times people will say, I'm just going to take a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I'm trying to be good. Take a little bit of this, and then you go back for more. And your stomach cannot count the number of bites that you took, okay? It's not doing that. It's better to just make a plate. Sit down, look at it, you see how much you're eating, okay? And then don't graze your way through the party, move on to enjoying the people that are there and the event that you're celebrating instead of just eating the entire time that you're there. So be more intentional about making a plate and eating it. What are some other challenges that you might face at a party? Yeah.
I think for me, if you're at a party, I will overindulge if it's something there that tastes really good. I've never had it, and I feel like I'll never have it again the rest of my life. So I'm trying to get like my lifetime fill, and especially there again, probably for me, it's desserts. If it's something like a dessert.
So you might want to question that mentality that you could never have it again. And we do that too with portions. Like if we cook something at home, we tend to take larger portions, but realize it's still there. You can pack it up and you can always eat it again tomorrow. It's not going anywhere. And you could always make that dessert, or you could find out where they got it from, and it's not like you're never going to see it again. And we do that with diets too. Like we'll start one day, or we'll eat everything we can, the day before, and then the next day start the diet. That's a mentality that doesn't really work. So if you allow yourself, that's something you can eat, and you're allowed to eat it. It's just how much of it you're going to have. That's a better way to think of it.
And sometimes it'll work in my favor. Like if I see something that just looks store-bought or something, I'm like, well, I could get that tomorrow at Giant or something. So I'm not going to indulge now. But it's that homemade, one-of-a-kind. Yeah, and it's really good.
And that's part of being the food snob is kind of determining. You're not going to have the store-bought cake and that. You're just going to focus your calories on the thing that was brought, that was homemade. Yeah. All right, what I'd like to do is take the last 2 or 3 minutes and just really talk about you being the one to bring some healthier options to the party. So if you think about the protein on the plate and also half plate healthy, what are some healthier, really delicious options that you can bring to a healthy tailgating party? What are some kind of foods that you can bring? Carrots.
It's easy.
It's easy.
Have the veggie tray.
Yeah, like a veggie tray.
Veggie trays
And actually,
everywhere.
you can take Greek yogurt now and substitute that for the sour cream to make the dip. So the non-fat plain Greek yogurt can be used instead of sour cream. You can also use that to top the chili off instead of sour cream, and to make cream sauces. So I went to a whole Chobani cooking class, and apparently you can make, Greek yogurt part of every single course of a 5-course meal. We had tiramisu that was made from Chobani yogurt too. So, all right, what are some other healthy things that you can do?
Is spinach dip healthy?
Spinach dip, it just depends. Like if you use, an olive oil instead of butter, more spinach than cheese.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about hummus? What do you think of hummus?
Hummus is wonderful, and a homemade hummus is even better. So you can put roasted red peppers and garlic in there. Also guacamole, so homemade avocado dip would be wonderful. Salsas are very low in calories and very flavorful. The chips that you all were snacking on before with the chili, they're made with some unusual ingredients. They have sunflower seeds in them, quinoa, flaxseed, and they taste really good, right? They're delicious chips. Looking for a little bit healthier versions, and maybe just watching the portion size of the chips that you're eating. Protein, what are some healthy proteins that you could bring for a tailgating party? Quinoa. Okay, like a quinoa salad. What else?
Turkey.
Wings. No.
Yeah. So I think there's even a recipe in the magazine for baked wings. And you could put different spices on them, like curry powder or chili powder. You could really liven them up that way. Chicken legs are really, like, kids love that. If you do chicken legs instead of fried chicken in the oven, they get really crispy and delicious. And again, you can season them. Instead of using sugar, fat, and salt, you can use herbs and spices to really bring out the flavor. My favorite thing to bring is like a chicken satay, like chicken on a stick with a dip. Or grilled shrimp skewers are very popular, and I'll usually just make them at the party. So I'll have them all skewered up and seasoned. I usually use McCormick's Perfect Pinch Spice. It's a blend of different seasonings, so like Southwest or Fiesta Citrus or garlic and herb, and it doesn't have any salt in it, so it has a lot of flavor without the salt. And you can skewer them up and actually just take a little panini maker, and I'll make them right there. It takes about 4 minutes. It cannot be any easier. So shrimp Creole. So there are some stews and some crock pot kind of things that you could take that are very healthy but are also very flavorful. Any other ideas? Peanut butter and jelly on whole wheat. One thing I love to take is wraps, and you can do the tortilla wraps, but you can also do lettuce wraps using a Boston bib lettuce. So I'll do like an Asian chicken and vegetable stir fry, and then people love to put them in the lettuce wraps. Delicious. So don't think of just healthy being flavorless, or people won't want to eat it. There are some wonderful things that people will be very happy if you brought to the party. So on the last note, I just want to mention what's in the chicken chili. You all had a little taste of that. And I'll make sure the people that are watching remotely get the recipe. It's just made from shredded chicken breast. So I cooked the chicken breast in the crock pot for a couple of hours, and then I just shredded it. You can also use rotisserie chicken, or you can bake the chicken in the oven to do that. And then the reason why it's healthy is there's hardly any fat in it. There's 2 tablespoons of olive oil in the whole thing. There's onions. There's beautiful red and yellow peppers, so it's very colorful. There's no chicken broth in it, so the sodium is very low. We're just using canned tomatoes that are crushed. And then topping it with your favorite spices. Also, I did put a can of northern beans in there. So the white beans are like superfoods, okay? They have fiber, they have healthy plant chemicals in them and nutrients, and they're really good for you. So we're trying to get more beans into the American diet. So anytime you can add a can of beans to something, make sure you do that. Did you like the chili?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. You didn't just eat it because I was watching you, right? If you didn't like it, you don't have to eat it. Only eat it if you like it.